Hello, it's time for Start Trek. That's right. This is Start Trek, the Next Generation Rewatch Podcast. I am your...
Can I be done now?
Okay, yes, I think we're good. I'm your host, Dave, and I'm also joined by my co-host and wife, Amara.
And brilliant singer.
Amara. That's
You're
right.
Welcome, world.
This is the very first episode of our podcast, and so just a quick introduction. What we're going to be doing is watching or rewatching every episode of TNG, Star Trek The Next Generation, with one lifelong Star Trek fan, which is me, and one Star Trek novice or neophyte or someone, let's say...
Star Wars fan, Dave.
Star Trek curious.
Star Wars
fan. Okay, my wife Amara. So Amara, how would you describe your past exposure to Star Trek?
Haha, Dave. Well, let me take you back to my childhood, back in the great home state of Idaho, where my brother and I lived a bunker-like existence. My parents were very strict on what TV shows we were allowed to watch, and this is the list. Are you ready?
Okay.
It's going to blow your mind, and also, I'm not a lawyer, so their attempts failed. It was Law and Order SVU, NCIS, JAG, and Monk.
I see. So I detect no Treks, Star or otherwise, in there.
No Star Trek. However, my parents had a very large VHS collection, so we were allowed to watch movies. So my brother and I devoured Indiana Jones and the original 3 Star Wars movies, like every week. So pretty hardcore Star Wars fans in our household.
Nice. Okay, but so it sounds like you are maybe familiar with Star Trek just from a cultural exposure, but you haven't seen any episodes of this TV show.
So not The Next Generation. Full disclosure, I saw the J.J. Abrams remakes.
Okay.
And I also have seen the original ones that are like really problematic.
The original series, yeah.
Yeah, the original ones like with Kirk, McCoy, Spock, and Uhura, mostly while I was in waiting rooms watching the TV while my tires were rotated.
Okay, yeah.
Or my bumper was replaced.
That is actually how Roddenberry envisioned people watch them.
Good for him.
So you're really getting the original intention there.
And I also know from a feminist class in college how valuable the show was for its portrayal of social dynamics at the time. So I just want to say, go Nichols and Nimoy.
Okay.
Yeah. But no, I know nothing about The Next Generation except for that time we first started dating 8 years ago. And you're like, we should watch this. It's my favorite show. And I kept laughing and you were not happy. So we stopped.
So this whole podcast is predicated on that. It's going to go super well.
And just for maybe those out there who have our kind of arrangement with one hardcore, do you prefer Trekkie?
I guess Trekkie.
Trekker?
I guess Trekkie. Yeah, well, it's officially Trekkie.
Trekkie. Okay, so if you've got like a Trekker, Trekless.
You mean a Trekkie partner?
Just a non-Trekker.
Or a Trekless partner?
Yeah, I highly recommend preparing for a drinking game.
Okay.
All right? I got your back. So we'll get through this together, non-Trekkies.
So just from my point of view, I've been a lifelong Star Trek fan. I watched like all the TNGs, DS9, Voyager, a bit of Enterprise, a bit of the original series, all the movies. I haven't seen the new ones like Picard or Discovery because it feels like, I don't know, I don't want to delve into that just yet. I wouldn't describe myself as a super fan necessarily, like not kind of crazy into the details and all that. But when I grew up, I had the TNG technical manual, I had little action figures, I had a battery operated phaser, like that whole situation, right?
You were so cool.
I was very cool. Oh I mean, it's kind of obvious.
Yeah.
And actually, one of my most favorite or treasured possessions is a signed photo of the TNG cast that Amara gave me for.
Yeah, your wife is so cool.
Yeah, so
your wife and your battery power nailed it.
Nice. So if you're really looking for a podcast that has like in-depth production insights into how they made the show, if you're a hardcore fan, this may not be the podcast for you. You might like it. If you're really looking for in the weeds Trek lore, we're not going to be doing that. What we are going to be doing though is rewatching each of these episodes and getting our unique insights. So Amara's insight as a first-time watcher, and my insight going back as a nostalgic fan. So if you're a casual fan, or if like me you love the show from childhood, or if you've never seen it, or you've only really seen the new stuff, we're hoping that rewatching the old stuff together with us will be a lot of fun.
Yeah. And also, I would like to make it super clear that I totally appreciate the series. All this is all in good fun and good humor.
Yeah.
My favorite movie of all time is Pacific Rim, and I will fight to the death anyone who has any sort of like aspersions on Pacific Rim. And my favorite genres are sci-fi, action, horror, and it's like shows like this that paved the way for those to become more mainstream while I was growing up. So I'm very excited to watch this. That said, TNG is pretty freaking hilarious at times. And I know we got to adjust for it being in the 80s before I was even born.
Oh my God.
But without any context, just jumping into it, it's a lot of fun, you guys.
Yeah, it is. Like,
and my background's in theater tech, so it's fun.
So for me, just like I love TNG, obviously, but my favorite seasons, like many of you, is probably season 4, season 5, 6, and 7, right? Like the latter half of the series, great stuff. Going back and watching season 1, episode 1 again, it's a little harsh, right? Like they haven't quite found their stride yet. So yeah, but it's hopefully all in good fun. I also want to add in there that I've tried my very best not to tell Amara anything about what's going to happen, right? So no spoilers about the characters, about the plot points.
Yeah.
So all of her predictions are going in with zero, I guess, information.
Also questions.
Yes, lots of questions. Yes.
So for those of you who are like me and thinking like, a drinking game could make this far more fun, the one for this week is because we have a guy who looks like Space Hamlet in spoilers in the first episode. Whenever Space Hamlet says thou, thy, or thine, or just as a fun one, finish your drink when Patrick Stewart says make it so.
He might not actually say that.
He does.
In this episode? Okay.
He does in this episode.
Cool. All right.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Oh, is someone becoming the better driver?
We both just finished watching it earlier today. So separately. That's right. So we're going to go through it now. So this is the very first episode of TNG. This is Encounter at Farpoint, Part 1, right? So just for frame of reference, this aired September 28th, 1987. So a little over 35 years ago, which is kind of amazing. The writing credits are DC Fontana and actually Gene Roddenberry himself. And so let's get into it, right? So the very first scene opens with a visual of the ship, right? We just see the Enterprise kind of looming up in front of us. And when I saw this, it made me a little sad, right? Like this is the very first episode. You see this ship, like this iconic vessel. It was super cool.
See, my first reaction was, is it still the Enterprise? What happened? Did Starfleet lose funding?
So,
I know this takes place after
the original series. Yeah.
So that was my question.
So this is actually the Enterprise D. It is the fourth of the Enterprises. The Kirk one was like decommissioned years before this series.
Because he crashed it? He seems like the type. He just doesn't seem like
I think it gets destroyed in the movies. I forget which one actually gets... Oh, it's Wrath of Khan, I think, maybe? I'd have to go back and check.
Okay.
Yeah, but it gets
Don't
destroyed.
Spoil those movies for me because I haven't seen those either.
You haven't seen those movies either?
No, I've only seen the J.J. Abrams ones.
Oh, wow.
And then like literally the ones where Kirk, like the episodes where Kirk's like, hello, lady alien, I'll have sex with you.
So not even Wrath of Khan?
No,
Wow.
Dave. What? I know who the Khan is from, not the Khan, who Khan is from one of the Star Trek.
Oh, from the Abrams ones.
Abrams universe. Like, wasn't that like, shall we begin? That was
oh my God. These are just world-class impressions. For those of you listening, Benedict Cumberbatch is not actually in the studio. That was Amara giving an impression. Sorry to disappoint.
The second one was a lot better. But I know that's the Khan, and they're like, Khan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. So we got some movies to watch.
Oh, joy.
So we start off with a very opening shot of the ship, right? Of the Next Generation Enterprise D. Amara, what were your thoughts about the ship?
Okay, first off, again, I was like, whoa, they kept it going. And I was like, oh, there's a lot more windows. Maybe this is a new model. Yeah. And then I was like, hey, this is really damn good for 87.
Yeah.
Like, real damn good. And then I was like, did they use the Star Wars company? That was literally my first thought. And this comes up multiple times during this episode. We're going to talk about that later, right?
Yes.
Okay.
We will.
Cool.
Yeah. Well, we can talk about it right now if you like, actually.
Yeah.
So it turns out that Industrial Light and Magic actually did work with TNG. This is the company you're talking about, the Star Wars company? Yeah. That to produce this. But really, they got paid, I don't know how much money, but like they got paid to basically just do the intro, I think. Right? So just the intro for the series was reused many, many times. I don't know they contributed graphics to the actual content of the episodes, just this.
I don't think they did it when it's like individual, like Space Hamlet arrives.
Yeah.
But they definitely did it for like the hyperspeed.
Oh, like the warp scenes
like
and stuff?
other things. Yeah, because they could just reverse it.
Yeah.
And there are times where you're like, and then also there's like a digital wall that pops up later and they use the lightsaber noise. So that's what tipped me off. I was like, I suspect this is George Lucas's company.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until I heard the saber noise that I was like, oh, and that would make sense for 87. And to be honest, there are other aspects of the staging that are like pretty low budget. So I could see them being like, you know what, we got to have like excellent FX.
Yeah.
You know,
and like there's no other company at the time that can do this kind of stuff, right?
No, but it looks pretty sharp for 87, especially pretty damn sharp.
And so a kind of interesting thing, this is the first episode, right? But it's not actually technically a pilot. The series apparently was approved, like the whole season was approved. So this is just the first 2 episodes, right? So they don't have anything to prove. They had a whole budget. They could blow a lot of it on Industrial Light and Magic to do, you know, shots like this or shots like the intro credits and use that for the whole season and then the whole series.
Yeah, I maintain they did that given the costuming. I'm sorry.
Yeah. All right, so we got the ship.
Continue.
And then our next opening scene is this kind of shot of Picard sitting in the dark. Yeah. You really just get a silhouette of Picard. But I gotta say, nice silhouette, you know.
So sexy.
Yes, very.
I think we can both agree. We're both comfortable enough.
Picard is a very sexy man, and I think
beast.
You know he's an iconic ship captain. You know.
Yes, he is.
So we have a little shot of Picard walking around his engineering room, and it really struck me seeing this is like looks almost like the camera is handheld, right? Like it's kind of shaky. It's like found footage almost.
What struck me is that he gets onto a moving platform that's supposedly an elevator that's a world of OSHA violations that he could easily be decapitated by.
Are you talking about the turbo lifts?
Yes, Dave, there's nothing turbo about those lifts besides how you can decapitate yourself.
There are these open platforms that, you could just, if you got a limb out there, you're just going to get it.
It's just gone.
I never thought about that.
Flat against it.
Yeah.
It just seems really dangerous. And also, Dave, before we continue, viewers, notice all of the random wood pieces throughout this spaceship and question yourself, does wood make sense in this setting?
Is wood a really good building material in the 24th century?
Yeah, like when they first open up on him, I'm pretty sure that's laminate behind him.
Oh,
and it's like, you guys couldn't even afford real wood? Like, no balsa wood with like a nice veneer?
So just for reference, we're talking about the scene in main engineering, those turbo lifts, right? For the fans of the show that are, I never really thought about it. They are quite open.
They're so dangerous, Dave.
Yeah, that is. And there's a lot of scenes. Well, I don't want to spoil it, but yeah. Anyways, Next scene, Picard walks onto the bridge and we see the bridge for the very first time.
Right. And he's got the internal monologue about how like, ooh, I'm in awe of this ship. And it's like, it looks like it's been burgled. Like the bridge looks like it's been burgled. There's like 5 seats. I can't tell if they have a carpet, which is not a great sign. And it's like, are you in awe of minimalism?
Yeah, it's an open concept design, really. It is quite spacious, you know, very spacious design, very accommodating.
Yeah, okay. I just thought it was like an obligatory new job. Got to say I'm in awe type thing.
So now Picard's walking around the very spacious bridge, and he goes over and he starts a conversation with Data, who of course we know is an android, right?
Yeah.
Oh, did you know? I guess you don't know that.
I did. No, I found out later in the episode, so it's fine.
Yeah.
However, what is yet to find out, are we talking evil android like Ash from Alien or cool android like Bishop from Aliens? So, prediction. Data is going to turn out to be evil.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll mark that. I got to keep a running tally of your predictions.
I'm going to keep them down, and then I'm just going to be like, haha, I bet you money. And then ignore the times that I'm wrong.
All right. So Data is evil.
Turns evil, or like, I don't know, just goes like the homicidal, like Ash pathway.
Data turns evil. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we got that one in the books. Data turns evil.
Also, I really love how Data doesn't know Snoop. And it's like, he's got this like, ooh, encyclopedia of human knowledge. And it's like, Snoop Dogg didn't make the cut. Like, shut up. Well, he's an icon.
Like Snoop this was 87, right? So Snoop wasn't mainstream.
Oh my God, I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
Okay, well, it still doesn't excuse not knowing Snoop but knowing pussyfooting.
I agree. Picard makes this point, like just to catch y'all up if you're not watching along, which you should probably just watch along. Picard has this first conversation with Data, and Data's really super robotic. Like they're describing their mission
Mm-hmm.
to Farpoint, and Picard says something along the lines of, we got to go snoop around Farpoint Station, and then Data stands up and says, "Inquiry, the word snoop." Like it's incredible. It's like talking to a computer, like literally talking to an 80s computer. And Picard comments, as Amara did, "You don't know the word snoop?"
Yeah.
Like,
Snoop.
get with it.
Do.
So they have this conversation about how what their mission is to go to Farpoint and snoop around, and then you see a bit more of Robo Data, and then our scene is kind of interrupted by this moment of Troi, where she's like, "Captain, I sense a presence."
Oh, her name's Troi. I just have her down as sexy boy boots.
Sexy boots.
I really love her boots.
Yes, this is early for the early stage Troi. So we got the hair, like the curly hair. We got a short dress. We got boots on. Yeah, this is
boots on fleek. That's what the kids would say 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, she's very attractive. I was like, oh. And then it turns out Sexy Boots is a clairvoyant and a counselor. And I was like, damn, she's one hella smart lawyer or therapist, because it hasn't been established yet.
Yeah, so I guess
say counselor.
They just call her counselor. Yeah. So she has this flash of like, oh, there's a presence, a powerful mind. And as this is maybe not too much of a spoiler, but we'll see this happen many, many times in the series, where Troy's like, "Captain, I sense a thing." Right?
Yeah.
And so she does that for the first time. And then suddenly,
That's
giant
a
grid of energy.
job to have.
What's that? Just a harbinger of doom?
I sense a thing.
Yeah.
I could do that.
That's kind of like, people that do the
like John
on the phone.
Edwards.
Yeah, exactly. The psychics.
Are you saying she's a fraud?
I am not saying that. I'm not saying that at all. No.
Also, I think if she is a counselor in the sense of a lawyer, somehow I think being a clairvoyant would not, like, they just wouldn't let you be a lawyer.
It seems a bit like cheating.
It is cheating. So, yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there.
That's an interesting point, because she's actually from a planet called Beta Z, where, like, everyone there is telepathic. So, like, how would that work for crime?
Maybe they have no crime. Whoa.
Yeah, this is what Star Trek is good at, blowing your mind with social
Mine
possibilities.
is blown and her boots are still
So then Troy's like, "Oh my God, there's something out there." And then we have suddenly this energy net, right?
Yeah.
This like plasma field that appears in the screen.
with noises like a lightsaber.
So these are the lightsaber noises that tripped you up? Okay. So they're like, "Oh my God, energy net," or like giant thing. And then Worf puts up the deflectors, classic deflector shield maneuver. And Picard orders a full stop. Right, so everyone.
He also says it's a yellow alert. And I was like, what the hell is a yellow alert? I need a breakdown. That doesn't seem that bad.
Yeah, so I mean, yellow, I guess, is intermediate. There's like normal running, yellow alert, and red alert, which is extremely bad.
Wait, is normal running just like green? Is it like stoplights?
There's basically no color for normal, to my knowledge. It's just like colorless, normally running.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I could be misremembering, but I don't think there's a specific color for it.
Well, that's annoying.
But would you really want to be bathed in like green light all the time, or like have everything
They're
is
not
okay
putting on
alarm?
yellow lights now, Dave.
Well, right, so we got this energy net. They slow down, or Picard orders an all stop in front of this kind of energy net thing.
At which point I noticed that they were using car seats, maybe.
Oh, for their like the seats on the bridge?
Command center?
Oh yeah. Oh, and I meant to mention this. When Picard goes on the bridge,
Yeah.
we see Worf, we see Data, we see Tasha Yar, and we see a random red-shirted guy in the ops position on the bridge.
Yeah.
So if you're a fan of the original series or you're familiar with the meme, you gotta wonder what's gonna happen to this red-shirted guy.
See, yes, that is something else I have here.
Yeah.
That's something else. Yes. Okay. So the red is not the same as the red shirts from the original series, because otherwise Picard would be like dead right away.
Yeah.
And then there's other colors, like, and I did actually have to Google the specific color, Dave.
Yeah.
It was hard to find. I started with vomit green and puce and was way off base. Turns out
uniform?
Data
yeah.
and kick-ass blonde lady are wearing a color that's called, and I'm not making this up, swamp Green.
It's yellow. They're wearing yellow uniforms.
Dave, that's not yellow.
That's yellow. Those are yellow uniforms.
They're not yellow. We will send this to other people to get them involved. But okay, guys, so here's the conclusion we've come to. First off, I took a picture, texted several of my artistic friends. And second off, we're going to go ahead and trust the person who actually has a degree, a Bachelor of Art, versus Dave and his claim that Data's uniform is gold, when it very clearly, when you do a color search on the internet, shows up as more of a swamp or dark gold. That's the most I'll give you, is dark gold. Can we make a concession at dark gold?
I'm just going to say they're gold.
Okay.
Yep, that's what they're...
Just for anyone who's picturing like yellow, like bright yellow, like bumblebee yellow, they're not. They're like swamp. So the uniforms, which apparently are called gold, but are very clearly a swamp color, supposed to show ranks, right, Dave?
Yeah, so the red are like operations and command.
Yeah.
And the gold uniforms are yellow uniforms, or swamp uniforms if you prefer. Those are for like operations and security, and the blue are for like science or medicine or Deanna Troi, counselor.
Lawyer, counselor, therapist.
Counselor.
We don't know yet.
Still TBD.
TBD.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that clarifies things a little bit. So the red shirts don't die.
Well, we'll see. I mean, they're still red shirts, right? Like there's command, but also operation. So
who's the red shirts then? Who are the red shirts?
So in this case, we got Picard in one shirt.
No. I mean, like, who is the equivalent of the red shirts compared to Kirk's red shirts?
Oh, I guess actually it would be yellow or gold shirts because they're the guys in security.
So the swamp shirts.
Okay, if you prefer.
Can we just call them yellow gold swamp? Just meet in the middle.
I'm going to keep calling them gold shirts. Because that's
I tried, audience.
That's the official name for the uniform.
Artistic eye, I tried.
So yeah, listeners at home, you could have a look at these uniforms and come to your own color conclusion.
So I have a theory about this next part, which is that they put all the money towards the special effects, and they're like, crap, we got to do costumes.
Yeah.
And someone somewhere heard that there was like basically like the equivalent of a Black Friday sale at like Fox or CBS or whatever, and it's like all the crap you can fit into a bag, you can take it for $1, and they're like, hell yes, they just went to town. And that's how we have the rest of the costumes for this episode, including introducing Space Hamlet.
Yes. So at this point, those of you who've watched the show along with us, like the ship gets stopped by this energy net. Picard orders a full stop. They're like, oh my God, what's going on? And then a flash of light and the entity known as Q appears, or as Amara has been referring to him, Space Hamlet.
Space Hamlet.
Yes, Space Hamlet. So Q appears basically dressed, he looks like Christopher Columbus, kind of from the textbook, right?
But the haircut of a Hamlet.
And he starts talking, and he is throwing out so many thous and those, and like
Lines.
This. Yes, it's just this really over the top kind of old English accent. Right?
Which I'm sure Patrick Stewart was just like, yes, my people.
So you think Stewart, like straight out of the Shakespearean
This
like
is
theater?
probably his Hamlet costume. He just has
he's just dusted it off.
Yeah, he's like, can we somehow integrate this? It just make me feel a bit more comfortable.
I just have this in my trailer.
Yeah.
So Q's on the bridge, like going around, like queuing up stuff, throwing up some little energy walls and preventing people from doing their thing. And then red shirt guy tries to pull a little sensor on Q and gets literally frozen.
Who is that red shirt guy?
So he is no one.
Oh, so he's Beardsley McForgetful.
Yes, he is like almost literally like a red shirt from the original series. Like we get a name later on, but it's like, I mean, in the original series, there's this meme of like the red shirts always die, right? And so, but in this case, I kind of think what they were trying to do, I have no evidence for this, is they had a nameless red shirt on there who is imperiled, who is frozen, and his fate is undetermined. But then, as we find out in a few minutes, he actually survives. So it might have been a way to mark a distinction from the previous show, but also being continuous with it. I don't know. That's just an idea.
Right, just like how the swamp color is different
my
than
God.
the yellow shirts. I got you.
So you have more conversations with Q appeared dressed as Columbus, or Space Hamlet.
Who has a great wig, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Great wig. 10 out of 10 Space Hamlet.
So then Q goes like talking to Picard about how like
humans suck. We get it.
Our dangerous savage child race. Q changes to a couple other different costumes. Like he becomes like a 1950s army dude.
Oh, yeah. No, so that was like part of the whole budget hella small, probably grab bag. Also, I wanted to point out that Sexy Boots is really great observing things. She's like, he's frozen!
Yeah.
When the red shirt falls down frozen. And I like that. Good for her.
So do you remember in the Galaxy Quest?
Oh, yeah. No, I love
Sigourney Weaver's character?
Quest. Yeah,
Yes.
so she's like the Sigourney of the crew.
So far, at least in this Yeah.
Nice.
She's
Well, at least
Sigourneying
she
it
has
up.
good boots. Okay, so what is Q trying to convey now?
In his like thous and theys, and therefore go back or thou most certainly will die. This is after he freezes the red shirt, and then we go to the intro, right? The classic Space, the Final Frontier intro by Patrick Stewart speaking over it, was he got all the planets and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. When you say all the planets, by the way, it seems that this show takes place exclusively in our galaxy.
It does. Yeah, I've wondered about that, because, I mean, obviously they're not, but it's like very clearly like Saturn or what. Yeah.
So does that mean Space Hamlet lives in Saturn?
Oh my god.
Serious question.
Yeah. Space Hamlet is everywhere.
That's why we've never explored it.
You just can't go past Space Hamlet.
And the other thing I love about this is how I learned what a split infinitive is. Because of the to boldly go.
Yeah.
So whenever someone's like, what's a split infinitive? I'm always like, oh, to boldly go. And to be honest, I still don't know what the fuck that means. But it makes me sound smarter than I actually am.
I think it is the most famous split infinitive in the world.
Oh, most definitely. Yeah, I feel like it was on the SAT or something.
Yeah. All right, so we have the iconic, at least in my mind, iconic credits. Amara, did you have any thoughts on the intro?
I mean, besides the fact that, again, really disconcerted that it's like, uh-oh, we got a problem with Earth and then Mars. And then you got some like Jupiter action, you got some Saturn action. I did notice no Pluto. So way to be ahead of the time.
That's true.
87.
Yeah, very prescient.
People.
Yeah. But I think we talked about this, that the intro is done by Industrial Light and Magic. Everything else is done by whatever they had to hand, right?
Right.
So we get back to the show. They're still behind this energy wall, and they're talking to Q, or also Space Hamlet.
Right. And the space wall is shimmying.
It is a cool, like, it's like a little chainmail, like space wall. It's kind of cool.
Okay, so at this point I wrote down, Space Hamlet is being a total douche.
And so Q changes over from Space Hamlet into Space Patton, I guess, basically.
No, I think he's Space McCarthy supporter.
Space McCarthy, okay.
That's what I wrote down. And then I wrote, yeah, the budget was hella small for these costumes.
Yeah, they must have just literally gone into the back lot and gone through like all the costumes they had that would fit John Q. DeLance.
Some of them look like they're from the Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
I'm kind of curious.
Yeah.
If like this broke into Rod Sterling's warehouse and they're like, ha!
So after he goes to the military band, he then changes into, I think this is one of my favorite costumes from the whole show, honestly, is when he changes into this like future army guard who's basically a dude wrapped in a puffy parka. Right?
Ooh! I have that he changed into a trendy exterminator costume and that he probably destroyed a couch to do so.
Yeah, I love this puffy parka. It's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does look a little bit like they just carved up a couch and wrapped it around him.
Yeah, and he totally could put up a mask and be a space exterminator. Yeah. Okay, so Worf's around. And first off, observation the first. Wharf, I found out with subtitles on, is not like a fishing wharf.
That is correct. Yes.
It's like WORF.
Yes, it is not WHARF. So you thought he was like his adopted parents named him because he loved to hold up ships?
They just loved fishing.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
We named him after where he was conceived.
Wasn't Percy is adopted by like fishermen? And, I don't know how that's related. But my point is, I know about that.
Okay.
And then also, Wharf Man has a cool sash that's gold. That's gold, Dave.
He does have a cool little sash.
Yeah, and I don't understand why he's not the commander.
Yeah.
Like, if you're in a beauty pageant and you have a sash, that means you're the winner. So I don't know what space law is, but it's not pageant law, Dave.
Yeah, I guess like the Federation didn't really use beauty pageant law for a lot of their insignia and stuff. It's a real
their mistake.
Missed opportunity.
Yeah, because he's also the prettiest.
Oh, really? You like the ridges on his forehead?
No, I was just saying that to be nice.
Oh, okay.
He's obviously not the pretty. Now I feel like a jerk. No, I mean, like, we all know that it's Hot Boots, right?
Hot Boots.
Or Patrick Stewart.
All right, so now Q takes a little bit of a huff of shoulder cocaine. Some more conversation, and then Q ultimately disappears with some vague threats about judgment on humanity and the crew and such.
But not before he does this hilarious thing where he gesticulates towards Worf like like one of the ladies presenting prizes on The Price is Right.
Yeah.
He literally does like a towards Worf, and Worf's like, I hate you.
Yeah.
Oh, also, I think this is the second time where we hear Picard say before Space Hamlet takes off, this is a galaxy-class starship. And it's like, we get it, Picard. Stop name-dropping so hard.
Yeah, he does like to drive that
class.
point home a bunch of times in this first episode.
Yeah, I don't know what that means.
Yeah, at this point, no one does. So Q basically vanishes in a little puff of Q energy. And then Picard decides, you know what, we gotta outrun this guy. So they decide to go to warp super duper fast and split the ship.
Yeah,
right?
which I didn't know they could do. It blew my mind.
And also, like, this, I don't know, because, like, I don't know how I feel about this. Seems like a really rash decision. Like, based on this one conversation, you're going to go super fast and split the ship, which has never been done before, with a brand new crew that you've never really worked with before.
Yes.
It seems like really a bit much, right?
And the greatest oversight of all, Dave, if I may, I'm a little into the drinks.
Okay.
Is that they don't call the pilot saucier.
That's...
What a missed opportunity.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
Only I was alive and sentient to rectify it.
Yeah. Or the saucer captain? The saucier?
The saucier.
Yeah. So they decide we're going to go to super warp and then split the ship up.
Oh, also, turns out they really only need 4 people to pilot the ship.
Yes.
Cool.
Yes, they do. It seems like really minimal, even though there's like 1,000 people on board. Turns out a lot of them are just fodder.
So Data, at this point, when they're like splitting up the ships, he's really smug. Yeah. And I was wondering if he had like a setting where they could like maybe make him less smug.
You mean like set Data's to less smug?
Yeah. Or like maybe turn up the humor setting a little bit or something.
Oh, so might this be time for, do you have a Data-based prediction? Or a prediction about Data?
Okay, yeah, I'm going to say that there's like a button or something, like a wheel where it's like, evilness, and you can turn it up to 10 and Data, and right now he's like at a 1, maybe 2, because he's really smug.
Okay.
And he didn't know what snoop meant, so
Data prediction to control smugness or humor. Okay.
No, so he, like there's like a thing that'll like make him homicidal, like Ash.
Okay, like a dial or something.
Yeah,
you can turn up all the way to smug.
I mean, I'm sure it's like locked and like hard to find, or
yeah, no, it's like childproof.
Yeah. Or something else, like a USB drive. I don't know what they have in this world, Dave.
All right, so they're trying to escape the situation, so they go to super warp, and this little ball of net energy or whatever follows them. And then we have this kind of fairly protracted scene where they're just going faster and faster and faster.
I liked it.
Oh, yeah.
Although I didn't notice any seat belts on those car seats.
So yeah, they're going faster and faster and faster. So you enjoyed this chase? You felt this built some drama?
Yes, but I did have questions during it. I thought the Klingons back in the Kirk days were foes. So they have like a peace treaty now?
They do, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like the Khitomer Accords where they basically signed a peace treaty. And that part of that was allowing Worf, because of the peace treaty, to be in Starfleet.
Oh.
Yeah.
And actually, that's why he got a sash?
No, the sash is unrelated.
Okay.
I believe that was just to represent his, like, Worf is adopted by humans, obviously Klingon, and I think he wears the sash as like a memoir of his former house.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's like a little token of the House of Moog.
Well, I'm glad, because I really thought Klingons were the enemies. Okay.
Well, they kind of still are.
And then I felt like a space racist.
So that is actually something, well, we can talk about it later, but like Star Trek is really weird in that way, because they treat everyone equally. Like all the humans are like, there's women in power and there's people of different race and power, but then they say things like all Vulcans are like this. Right?
Yeah.
Or all Klingons are this way. And
or Sexy Boots really gets limited to like, he feels cold, he's frozen, I feel something.
So it's this weird mix of like egalitarianism, but also like racism. It's really weird.
Yeah, I mean, it's late 80s. There's only so much they can do, but it's still progressive for the time.
But I think I guess that's it, right? They confine their progressiveness to the humans or the people in Starfleet or the Federation. Yeah. People outside of the Federation are like, you're just kind of like your race.
Yeah. No, and the portrayal of women in this is very like definitely superior to like most of the sci-fi movies I can remember from the 80s, like in
Yeah.
RoboCop.
Oh yeah,
Like the women are treated so abominably and no
Yeah.
one ever talks about that.
yeah.
Yeah.
But no, here I think they, well, just like the original series, right? They
Yeah.
try to take pains to be good about that.
Yeah. Picard has a really good furrowed brow.
He does. I
He's
think
got that gravitas.
just in general, he's really good commanding presence.
It's that Shakespearean training.
Yeah. I wonder what they do to actually get that, because he has this very like stentorian voice, and like I guess shooting these downward camera angles, this camera from the bottom probably helps.
I just feel like you could drop him in like any era and he would automatically become a leader.
Absolutely.
Like drop him in ancient Rome, boom.
Yeah.
He replaced Caesar.
Oh no, like he's great. He's like a really archetypal like leader, right?
Yeah. Okay, yeah, so I have here, okay, perm with kick-ass boots just got called a counselor, is she lawyer or therapist? In my notes.
All right, so they're being chased by the energy ball. They decide to split the ship, and now Picard and a bunch of the command crew are going to go to what's known as the battle bridge.
That's the backup deck, right?
It's the battle bridge.
Oh, I had that it was called the backup deck. And also that the backup deck is way more chic than like the main deck.
Yeah.
Like the backup chairs are like a better color.
Yeah.
You know, they're not that weird, like kind of fawn thing that was popular in the late 70s. Yeah, it's just a way more chic.
Oh, man in a skirt.
Oh,
yeah.
That's pretty cool.
So just as an aside, as they're going to the battle bridge, we see this shot of, Deanna Troi, or Sexy Boots, as Amara's been calling her, in her short skirt. But we also see a dude in a short skirt walking some families away. So again, very progressive.
Crazy. Yeah.
Now we're on this battle bridge, which, as we were saying, is a much swankier kind of
It's
layout.
got a black floor and black chairs and white accents. Like, that's pretty classy.
So one of the things that kind of always bothered me a little bit about the way the ship is laid out is that bridge is right at the top of the saucer, right? So like right at the very apex of the saucer section. So if that gets hit by a laser beam or whatever, the whole crew's dead, right?
Like this one? Or
the swanky bridge, yeah. But the one they're just going to now, the battle bridge, the backup bridge, that's like buried in the middle of the ship.
And it's much nicer.
Which makes much more sense if you're going to have a command center, like put it where it's super safe, right?
And also pick the nicer one. Yeah, safety and quality.
So, yeah. So now they're in the battle bridge and they're splitting the ship.
Yeah.
Oh, and this is also, for those fans of the show, the first time. So we see Miles O'Brien, call Meanie, who also goes on to Deep Space Nine fame.
Yeah. Oh, cool.
And also Con Air.
Oh, and so I put right here, holy crap, it's like a reverse Power Ranger. The ship can separate.
Yes, it is a reverse Power Ranger.
Because that definitely blew my mind.
Yeah, no, it's really cool. And it's kind of also cool they did it in the very first episode. I wonder how much sci-fi or special effects budget they spent on this.
I swear to God, it was like whatever the allocation was for the season.
Yeah.
It's like 900,000 per episode went towards FX, and then they're like, "We'll make do everything else."
So I did see something. I couldn't really get too much verification on this, that they were budgeted $1 million per episode for the first season.
So again, about 90%.
90% onto the special.
I mean, Dave, they have Space Hamlet. Okay, Space Hamlet.
So we have this. They're in the battle bridge. They have this really cool set of exterior shots of the ships separating, and we see all these interior shots of people reacting to the separation of the saucer section and star drive section. Ultimately, the saucer section gets away. Right, they're free, and Picard in the battle bridge orders an all stop to the star drive section, and then the plasma ball approaches, like the Q alien approaches, and Picard orders a surrender. Right, he says, like, broadcast on all channels, all frequencies, we surrender. Right,
we surrender, Space Hamlet, to your marble.
And then right after he surrenders, they all get transported into this courtroom. Right.
Yeah. Okay, so I got really excited by this because I was like, what? They're on Space Hamlet ship now. And then I was like, cool. They probably have space grog. Like, it just seems like the type of place and the way the chamber's set up that they would have space grog.
Yeah.
You know, and like, it just seems like they'd be a bit more chill than Enterprise. So there should be more celebrating. But I was wrong.
No, that it is a slightly different vibe they're going for in this new courtroom. And I'm sure fans of the show will remember this courtroom I'm talking about, where it starts the show off where you really engage with Q for a lot more, when it basically puts humanity on trial. One thing I didn't notice, well, that Amara pointed out to me.
Yeah.
There is actually a guy with an umbrella. A lady with an umbrella in this scene, in the very beginning of the scene. But the umbrella has no, like, covers.
It's just open.
It's just like an umbrella skeleton.
I mean, honestly, if you pause that scene, you can find something on every actor that's just like, what?
Oh, yeah.
I'm telling you, Halloween crab bag from, like, some CVS lot where they're like $1 a bag.
Yeah, no, it's quite a collage of characters they got here.
Yeah, I love it. They don't even have to pick a lane. It's all the lanes, Dave.
I do also like that they have more of these guards with the puffy jackets,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like the gray puffy armor jacket.
Who apparently have flamethrowers.
Yeah.
And I was like, where's the spin-off series for these guys?
It actually reminded me a lot of like RoboCop 3, where RoboCop has that handgun type deal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the guards have that. So, but it turns out it's this courtroom from the mid-21st century post-atomic horror Q has like set up.
Yeah, and I don't get the eagle in the background.
Yeah, I don't know.
I was very confused.
Yeah.
Because, like, you know, proud to be an American. But I know there's also eagles in Germany, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does look more German, like the whole color vibe and everything. Yeah. So Q enters the courtroom in this kind of floating little judge chair.
Which I loved. Okay. Couple notes.
Okay.
First off, he's changed out of his Hamlet ensemble.
Yeah.
Which is appropriate because they're in a courtroom. So I think that's good.
Yeah.
And now he's like channeling his inner evil Thomas Cromwell / Cardinal Wolsey from like Henry VIII days. Like it's a mashup. And
Okay.
I love a good costume mashup. And then he's got these sleek red, I'm assuming Prada gloves, even though they didn't have the budget for it. And it is just on fire. And he's got the Cromwell hat to top it off.
Yeah, he's got this big golden like badge of office around his neck as well.
I love it.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And he also has a floating throne. And I did pause this several times. So on the throne, there's what I first thought were some very long-necked lions. But then looking at them in profile, I was like, are they bears? And then a third time, I watched it third time. It was like, oh, they're beavers. and I think snakes makes the most sense. Snakes make the most sense, but they weren't. So it's either a lion or a pair of lions, a pair of bears, or a pair of beavers.
So actually, I looked into this.
Did you really?
I did. So it turns out, like, if you dig into the history of it, they are beavers.
They're beavers?
This is actually post-atomic court in Canada.
Oh, God damn it. You got me. Okay, well done. But they do kind of look like beavers, right?
There's a bit of a beaver thing going on there.
It's like a beaver-lion hybrid.
Yeah. A beaver.
A Justin.
So Q enters the courtroom, and this kind of, I don't know, it kind of bothered me a little bit that Data leans over to the captain and is like, at least we're acquainted with the judge, Captain. Like, Data's making a joke.
Yeah.
Before he couldn't understand, like, what was it?
The implications.
Sneak or something like that. Yeah. And now he's like making jokes. Like, is he an android or not? What are we doing here?
Pick a lane, Data.
That's right.
Yeah, like, okay, so now you understand sarcasm. Yeah. See, he's got a secret, like, dial or something, dude.
And so as we go through this scene, it turns out these, like, puffy jacketed bailiffs that they got going, they're kind of basically acting like every time they shoot their guns, it's like a gavel, you know? Like, order in the court, and they shoot their guns off. Mm-hmm. And then one of them just flat out kind of pisses off Tasha Yar. He was shooting his gun too close to the captain. And so Tasha just jumps on him and kicks his ass.
Oh, yeah, I have that. Okay. So I said, my notes are, rebel, 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 states around people, rebel, rebel, rebel. You go, a broken umbrella lady. Did they give Data and blonde fighter chick ugly colored uniforms because they thought Data wouldn't know it's a sick burn and fighter chick probably just doesn't care? Like, it's swamp colored. Oh no, that's probably why Data has the same contact lens color.
Oh my God.
Someone should probably tell him it doesn't look good. Did fighter chick just kick someone?
This was a real, like, a real Baptist sensation going on here.
Stream of consciousness that kind of went way off the rails. Yeah.
So yeah, fighter chick or Tasha Yar beats the crap out of one of these guards.
Yeah.
And then basically the other guard comes over and just kills him.
Yeah.
Like, just decides to shoot him because he got beat up, I guess.
Yeah.
But before he gets killed, he takes a shot of shoulder cocaine.
That's what that was?
Yeah. Yeah, it's like some
Oh.
drugs or whatever to control the soldiers, I guess. Like Q refers to that in the
So wait,
earlier.
what was wrong with that era? They had like couch uniforms and free drugs and stuff?
I guess it's unclear. Yeah.
Okay. And flamethrowers.
Yeah. but-
Again, where's the spinoff, Dave?
So I guess like in the Star Trek history,
Yeah.
at this time or before when this court is supposed to take place, there's like a worldwide or global like nuclear war, right? And there's also some wars involving genetically enhanced people like Khan, right, who kind of take over the world
Mhm.
or threaten to. And this is presumably a court that happens after that when the world is kind of in chaos.
Yeah, no, I could gather that, but I just think that like maybe they could have kept the couch guards with the flamethrowers.
Yeah, I don't know
And
why
the
he decided
heroin.
to like kill his buddy, right?
Yeah, that part was a little confusing, but
Yeah.
I was still focused on is it a beaver or
Oh
lion?
my god.
So I also want to point out that I really appreciate, and I think this is super progressive,
Mhm.
Space Hamlet has a full face of makeup. He's got
Oh,
some
yeah.
blush, some eyeshadow.
Yeah.
Like he looks really good,
Yeah.
or she, however they identify. And honestly, going back to the whole 2000s makeup situation, if Space Hamlet today had a YouTube channel on how to put on makeup, I would subscribe
Yeah.
because it is like his contour is great. His
Mhm.
lips look full. I was just like, good for you. Yes, he's doing a great job.
Hmm.
And then I said, oh, the caption just revealed his name is Q. I'm gonna keep calling him Space Hamlet.
Yes.
And then next was, I really want Space Hamlet's badass red leather gloves, but I just don't think I have the confidence to pull it off.
So Q basically accuses, or he's like talking about, putting humanity on trial, and Tasha just basically yells at him for, growing. She grew up in like a city or planet where this kind of court was common, and she goes to like 100,
Yeah.
right? Really belting out at Q. And then Q freezes her. Just
Yeah.
flat out freezes her.
To which I wrote, Space Hamlet is a bitch.
So after this, Picard accuses Q of being unfair, saying, you promised us prisoners will not be harmed. He basically talks Q into being more fair, and so Q decides to thaw out Tasha. But what I really liked about that exchange between Picard and Q is we see like this Picard that we're talking about is like this awesome leader who makes these great speeches,
Yeah.
and like turns his opponents around on him, and
Mhm.
like, yeah.
It was
really
also
cool.
at this point I came to the conclusion that that one lady was a counselor more in the therapy way and not a lawyer because she
Ah.
kept her mouth shut. So I
So-
was like, you gonna chime in there, counselor?
Yes.
It's like, oh, you must not be that kind.
Yeah, she's more of a therapist.
Yeah.
Yeah, Picard is more like the space lawyer. All right, so we have this kind of more extended verbal tete-a-tete between Picard and Q, and ultimately what winds up happening is that the little puffy jacket soldiers go over and they put their arm guns or whatever up against the temples of Data and Troi, and they tell Picard, Q tells the soldiers, you will press those triggers if the prisoner, Picard, answers anything other than guilty. And then we have a dramatic commercial break.
I have no commercial ready, but
Okay.
I'm gonna go ahead and give a shout out to my girl Kinky right now, which is the liqueur I'm drinking.
Kinky boots.
Are you ready to fight with your love partner about whether or not shirts on a sci-fi show that aired before you were born are gold or swamp colored? Maybe have some Kinky first. It'll loosen the nerves. And you won't feel quite as important, even if they are totally swamp colored. Yeah. So Kinky, delicious passion fruit liqueur for everyone.
Nice.
Yeah.
Let's jump in.
Thanks, babe.
So as I was saying, Q basically tells his soldiers, pull those triggers unless the prisoner answers anything other than guilty.
Yeah.
And Picard answers, guilty, provisionally.
So why didn't they pull him after guilty?
I guess,
'Cause it's like guilty, ... provisionally.
yeah, he like snuck it in there.
Yeah.
Well, he answered guilty.
Yeah, so couldn't they shoot him then?
No, kill him if he
Oh,
says
if he
anything
didn't.
other.
Oh
than.
my god. Okay. We'll just erase that line of questioning.
So Picard answers guilty provisionally, and basically questions if the court is actually abiding by Q's own instructions. And ultimately, they have a bit more verbal back and forth, and Q decides to put humanity to the test,
Mhm.
right? And decides that the next mission at Farpoint Station will be a test to see if all of humanity deserves basically to exist.
2 questions, Dave.
Yes.
Just want to clarify, you said humanity and not huge manatees.
That's right. Yeah.
Because we both know huge manatees would pass whatever ethics test was thrown their way.
Any size manatee, really.
Any size manatee.
Yeah.
And then second off, isn't any station in space a Farpoint Station? Like, that doesn't seem particularly clear.
Yeah. No, that's a good point.
Yeah.
I guess it's like a capital Farpoint, right? Like a proper noun Farpoint, as opposed to a Farpoint.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
I just feel like they could be a little bit more creative. Like if Kirk did so much or whatever,
Yeah.
isn't there like a Kirk station?
Well, I mean,
Lieutenant Uhura, I feel like she dealt with a lot of shit. She should have a station named after her.
so a little bit of a spoiler, there will be things like Starbase 84621. Is that better than Farpoint Station?
Is that, I mean, like I know 24601 from Les Miserables. That's Jean Valjean's number.
Yeah, so they have numbered starbases.
Okay.
But I feel like having
Do they have one
names-
after Jean Valjean? Because that's the only one I really care about right now.
I don't remember there being such a one.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Q decides, let's have a trial for humanity. Your current mission will be the trial. And then ultimately he snaps them all back to the battle bridge. So we jump back to the battle bridge.
Yeah.
So they're back in the battle bridge after Q transported them. And I love this when they flash back, like Miles O'Brien is still sitting there like nothing happened. Like he
That's
doesn't
who that
question
is?
like why is everyone standing suddenly, right?
So I have in my notes that guy's totally a villain.
I see. Is
Yeah.
another prediction you want to throw in
No,
here?
for sure. That's like one of my conclusions at the end of this episode is that guy to the right of Data, who just seems like nonplussed, is just like totally gonna betray everyone. He's gonna do
Okay.
something real stupid, or he's gonna be like, haha, I'm a secret agent for whoever the antithesis of Starfleet is.
Yes. All right. So I think we've got Amara prediction the third, Miles O'Brien, double agent and or evil.
Or just incompetent. Yeah.
Double
Okay.
agent, evil, or incompetent.
So we now are at the Farpoint, right? The
Yeah.
station?
So now we cut to Riker kind of walking around the Farpoint Station, just like Farpointing, going around, and he goes to talk to the station administrator, a guy named Groppler Zorn. Totally common.
Groppler.
Mhm.
Let's check with our weather, Groppler. It's gonna be another calm day.
So Riker goes to talk to Groppler, and like Riker's amazed, like, "Oh, you guys built the station. You got so much energy. That's super cool." And Groppler's like, "Yeah." Groppler Zorn offers Riker like anything, some fruits or something. And Riker's like, "Oh, it'd be great if you had an apple." No apples. But suddenly there's a bowl of apples that appears magically.
Yeah, okay, I had a couple things here.
Okay.
First off, Groppler looks like one of the 3 witch costumes that I did sew for Macbeth in middle school.
He does
Like-
look kind of like
Just
that.
like I took a sheet, I dyed it, threw a gray wig on one of the girls, and I was just like, bam, witch.
Yeah.
Get into character. And then also the
Mhm.
apples, I thought they were actually, it was going to be like a twist
Yeah.
because I thought they were like red peppers because they're so
Oh.
shiny. They have that
Yeah.
like waxy shine
Yeah.
of red peppers. And I thought Riker was going to be like, oh, a pepper. So gross. But then he walks away and it's very clear that it's an apple.
Yeah.
So
That's disappointing.
yeah, I thought it was going a different direction. I wasn't sure which one.
So they have their continual conversation. Riker munches on his suddenly appearing apple and kind of remarks like, "Oh, I could have sworn they didn't have any apples," or something like that.
Right.
And
Oh, yeah. And the old guy starts talking to himself, and Riker's like, oh, it's perfectly safe for me to take this apple / maybe red pepper from this guy who talks to himself. That's not weird in the slightest.
so after Riker leaves, then Groppler starts talking.
Yeah. He did that while Riker was still in the room, though, I thought.
Or no, it's after Riker leaves.
Oh.
So that what were you thinking about that? Like, so Riker leaves, and then Groppler starts saying some things.
Yeah. Yeah, but he says it loudly enough. I feel like Riker could be like, what the fuck?
So he's saying something about like, we warned you about doing this. If you do this again, you will be punished. So any thoughts about what's going on here?
Yeah, he's literally shouting at bananas, Dave. I'm pretty sure Riker heard that.
So you're thinking that he's just talking himself to the bananas.
No, I'm sure there's some sort of like higher space being or something that like grants wishes or some crap because like, obviously the apple / peppers came out of nowhere,
Yeah.
and this like Macbeth witch knockoff is like upset about it. So it's got to be some sort of spooky entity we don't understand.
Okay. So that's your prediction?
Or maybe slugs that crawl in your ears that that control your mind, kind of like, what are those called? The animorphs. Yeah, like an animorph.
So we have two predictions, it sounds like. There's going to be a spooky alien that grants wishes, like a spooky space genie.
Okay, I don't like you reducing it to spooky space genie.
Oh, we could just make it a space genie.
But yes. Or like, I don't know, like a ephemeral, like, woo.
Space genie or earworms? Controlling earworms?
I sent a group text to my friends over this whole khaki yellow shirt conversation, and they all agree with me that it is brown.
Ah, cool.
They said if it was shiny, it'd be gold, but it's not. And they're like, no, that's unequivocally brown or dark khaki.
All right. So there we have it. The gold uniforms, brown or dark khaki.
Yeah.
So, space genie or mind controlling earworms? Any other predictions about what's going on here?
No, babes, that's, I mean, like, it's like, oh, it grants your fantasies. So maybe like some sort of like drug in the air, like a aphrodisiac, but for granting wishes.
Okay.
If that's a thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or, a volatile drug.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So we continue on Farpoint Station, and now we have Dr. Crusher and Will Riker meeting for the first time, as well as Dr. Crusher's son, Wesley Crusher. Did you have some feelings about Wes Crusher?
Dave, I really don't like children actors, and I know that sounds so bad, but like 9 times out of 10, they just take you out of the movie. Like War of the Worlds was not great, the remake with Tom Cruise, but Dakota Fanning was just so bad that you're like, oh my God, I can't get through this movie.
Yeah.
Like I literally would just couldn't. She was like, they're here, oh my God. And it's like, you're not Drew Barrymore who could pull it off. Macaulay Culkin could also pull it off. Just like, so yeah, I'm just generally, the moment I see a child actor, I'm like, oh God, it's going to be terrible.
So, but you're familiar with Wes Crusher. We've talked about him
Well,
before.
then I was like, oh my God, wait, that's baby Will Wheaton. That's the next note.
So you know Will Wheaton, but not...
Yeah, so I'm a big fan of Felicia Day's web series, The Guild.
Okay.
And he was featured on a season of it.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so I know him that way. And I also know about how, like, he had, like, a pretty bad relationship with his mom. Like, his mom kind of forced him into show business and was really exploitative and stuff. So I think I read an editorial that he wrote about that. And I was like, oh, that really sucks. So, yeah, no, I absolutely hate this whole like child character, and I'm sure I will continue to hate it, but I like Will Wheaton.
Interesting.
So I'm sorry I hate your character, Will Wheaton.
Because it seems like you came around backwards then, like you knew Will Wheaton and now have found out he was Wesley Crusher.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I definitely, definitely.
Oh, yeah, because I mean, I obviously grew up with Wes Crusher, who I found like...
Yeah, that must have been really shitty for Will Wheaton growing up.
Yeah, I mean, it's whether you... As a child actor, there's really no good roles, right? It's
there really
hard,
isn't.
You know?
Yeah.
So they're walking around Farpoint Station. Dr. Crusher's being a little standoffish to Riker, but, whatever. And then she goes over to get a bolt of cloth. Initially, this bolt of cloth is purple. But then she's like, oh, I wish this had some gold in it. And then she turns around and, hey, presto, there's gold in it.
Okay. Okay, first off, I wrote, oh, thank God, fabric is still distributed in bolts. That would be so confusing if it was space bolts. Second off, those colors are wildly different. She holds a purple piece of fabric and she's like, I wish it had some gold. And then like turns around to talk with Riker, who's honestly, if like reading this as a woman, he's giving me like creeper vibes on her. Like she's very clearly like not interested, bro. And he's like kind of creeping a little bit. Not too bad, but just enough for it to be like, eh. Mm-hmm. And then she's like, oh my God, they have the fabric and it's red. Yep. Once again, Star Trek. Okay. Brown, different from yellow. Red, different than purple. Like what?
So I suspect what happened here is they again had limited budget.
Yes.
No, they just had to go with whatever they had to spot.
But yeah.
But also, what I liked about watching this scene again, I haven't seen Encounter at Farpoint in a long, long time. And I noticed in this scene, too, you've got a bunch of dudes in short skirts or in like short little pants, right? Again, progressive.
That's very cool. Yeah, I really like it. And I really like that none of the women have to bear their cleavage. That makes me really happy, and that's super progressive. Yeah. I'm a fan.
So Crusher decides to buy the cloth, and that's all good. We get more of Wesley Crusher's face. And then they walk away, bop, bop, bop. And then.
And the cellar is one of the other witches from Macbeth, because there's three.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. Oh, also, I had another comment. So they mentioned like, oh, there's going to be children on the ship. And my first thought was, okay, so you know what? That's kind of not cool, because if someone were to like chop off my leg and I was in the med bay with this Dr. Crusher lady and this like little Will Wheaton's running around and I'm like having the worst day of my life, I don't want a child there watching me like bleed out and have my leg reattached. Like the first thing I would do with my leg is kick him once it was reattached. Like that doesn't sound like a really like good spot for children.
Yeah.
So I didn't like that. And then I said, oh, a lady doctor, and is Riker hitting on her? Oh. And then is Baby Will trying to hook her up? Because he seems like he's trying to a little bit.
He does kind of seem like that a little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's also really hard to judge child actors. Because they're not
yeah, fair enough, yeah. Again, I like you, Will Wheaton, in real life.
So we have Crusher and Wesley walk away, and then enter Geordi the Forge. Yes, LeVar Burton.
LeVar Burton, who is so busy reading to the kids of America that apparently he let down Riker for some stupid ass things. He didn't address him the right way. I just want to say, LeVar Burton, you can do anything. Take a look. It's in a book. Reading Rainbow. That's how I know him. He will never stop being the Reading Rainbow guy.
I haven't heard that song in so long. That's
the only reason why I even know about Star Trek was LeVar Burton. He's like, hello, you may have seen me on Star Trek. And it's like, no, I saw you on Reading Rainbow, LeVar Burton.
So Geordi tells him, like, oh, Picard wants you. Like, the Enterprise has emerged in orbit, but only the bottom half, star drive. And, then Riker beams back aboard to talk to Picard.
But only after, like, being kind of mean to LeVar Burton and being like, is this a professional order? Blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And it's like, know your place, Riker. LeVar Burton is an American goddamn hero.
Riker's in command of Geordi, though. He outranks him.
I don't give a shit. It's LeVar Burton, Dave.
I think it's really interesting, though, watching this episode and, like, seeing, knowing where everyone's going to be in terms of their styles and how they interact with each other and seeing what they're like now, right? Like, they're testing out these various possible interactions with each other.
Oh, okay. Well, I hope that means he gets nicer to LeVar Burton, because otherwise Riker lost himself a fan.
All right, so Riker beams back aboard the ship, and he sees Tasha Yar, and Tasha comes to escort him to talk to Captain Picard. And they go back onto the battle bridge, right? Tasha Yar basically has like a little slideshow for Riker to watch.
Before this, doesn't Picard like kind of dismiss Riker?
Yeah.
He like doesn't even make eye contact.
Yeah, he just
Here's my intel on that.
Mm-hmm.
LeVar called him and was just Riker, so rude, so rude.
Yeah.
He clearly does not care about literacy. And Picard's like, this guy.
So he decides to give him the cold shoulder.
Yeah.
The cold head dome.
Airtight, Dave.
Yeah. So, Tasha shows him this little slideshow about the queue and all this kind of stuff. And then Picard goes into his, like, other little ready room. Basically says, Riker, come to me when you're done. And then Riker comes in to talk to Picard for kind of, like, really their first exchange.
Oh, yeah. So I actually, just to come back to this, I said, okay, one of the pilots totally looks like a villain. I'm calling it non-data pilot at Mark 3836 is totally expendable or like a villain later. He just has that look.
Oh, wow. You're really coming out hard against Miles O'Brien.
Yeah. And then I also have Lieutenant Yar is really chill, given she's just been frozen and unfrozen.
She does seem to really take it in stride.
Yeah.
This is like not her first time being
like,
frozen and unfrozen.
Guy? He's still in the med bay?
Yeah. So Picard and Riker are talking about this whole Q entity thing and how it's not great. And then Picard asks Riker, like, I want you to perform a manual docking of the ship. So, like, the ship's in two halves, right? We got the saucer and the star drive. We're going to reconnect them manually. And Riker seems a bit like, okay, You sure? Okay.
But it's really strange because Picard has like a ton of soundproofing in his office, like a ton.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if that's because he doesn't want anyone to like listen to his space journal.
Oh, his log, his captain's log.
His captain's log. That's what it's called. I had Space Diary. I was like, no, that's definitely wrong.
Dear Space Diary.
Dear Space Diary.
So then we cut to the scene of the battle bridge where Riker is conducting a manual docking of the ship. Data does not seem impressed, but Riker basically does it. Negotiates everything back together. It actually doesn't seem that hard. He's just like go fast, slow down, turn, keep going. Okay, Doc. Then we cut back to Picard and Riker in the conference room, where Picard is, for the first time, this made me really excited, having tea.
Yeah. And it's like tea in like a really like I control the room way.
Yeah.
Like a Logan Roy Succession kind of way. You're just like, wow. Oh yeah. And so like Riker and Picard talk about like what happened with your previous captain.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it's like, but I won't endanger my captain. And it was like,
Yeah.
oh, captain, my captain moment.
And I love also here how they have Picard tell him, like, please help me avoid making an ass of myself in front of children.
Oh, yes. So I have that. Okay. So at 41:24, it really spoke to me in a nutshell, except I replaced children with babies. I can't, you've seen, like, I'm great with children.
Yeah, you are.
Babies freak me out. So I have, in quotes, I don't feel comfortable with children, but I would replace that with babies. So it'd be, I don't feel comfortable with babies. They seem so fragile. And I was like, well, I relate to you, Picard. Way to admit your weakness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also we see here, finally, after like Picard being a little cold to Riker, he's like, finally, welcome aboard, and gives him kind of like a nice, I don't want to say smile, but certainly a much more like nice greeting.
Yeah,
Right?
probably hands him a book off screen. Take a look. It's in a book.
So then Riker goes looking for Data, but unfortunately you can't find him because I guess Data is around escorting the Admiral.
Yeah, so Dave ruined this for me. You were really good.
I tried. Yeah. So we cut to the scene of Data escorting
A super old guy.
a super old guy.
Yeah.
And so we did ruin this a little bit before, but Amara, what was your initial impression of the super
I
old
wrote
guy?
down. Okay. A couple things. Okay. First off, actually, if we could go back just a tiny bit.
Yeah.
I wrote down, oh no, they're back in the command station. Can they not afford paint or carpeting? It looks like they just stole a bunch of IKEA furniture from college students. And then, okay, so when we get to the old guy, I wrote, old guy seems Vulcan racist. Like, oh, now he's just like that crotchety kind of acceptable racist because he's old and then he
Yeah.
like sometimes throws in compliments. Like, that's not cool. That's still racism.
Yeah,
You
you
dick.
really get that.
Yeah. And then I
So-
was like, wait a second. And then underneath I have the score, I'm like, is that Kirk? What the hell?
So yeah, they have this scene where, Data or the Admiral says to Data something along like, how did you remember my age that exactly? I don't see any points on your ears, but you sound like a Vulcan.
Yeah.
Boy. I think he throws a boy in there,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And then Data says, I'm not a Vulcan, I'm an android. And like, that's even worse, right? So we
Right.
definitely have some.
He went all like Ripley on Data for no reason.
Yeah.
And was just like, stay away from me, Bishop. But it's like, I'm sorry, Data's been perfectly lovely to you, old man.
Yeah.
And you revealed that it was.
Oh, this is DeForest Kelley, who played McCoy, right, from the original series.
Yes, the space veterinarian. Who could
Yeah.
forget him?
Yeah. So I thought it was really cool that they had one of the original members of the cast
Mm-hmm.
kind of handing off the torch to the new show, but also like you see how old he is, right? This really
Yeah.
gives you a real sense of time, like how much time has passed between the original series and the next generation, right?
So they've gone through 4 enterprises since then.
Yeah.
I feel like that's not a good record.
I don't know. I mean, because the McCoy was what when the series finished, like 50 something, 60 something, and now he's 137 or thereabouts.
Yeah, but the Queen Mary,
Mhm.
I'm pretty sure was built in like what, 1914?
The Queen Mary.
Yeah, it's an ocean liner.
Oh.
Yeah,
I
and
was
it's
thinking
still
of the Mary Rose.
sailing. So
Yeah.
if a starship has
Yeah.
needed 5 refurbishments,
Oh, it's completely new ships.
okay, that doesn't make it better, Dave.
No, it's like 70 years, and you got 4 ships in that time, so
Or the
20
same
years per
cruise
ship.
ship for over 120 years.
Well, you send that cruise ship to space and see how well it does. When it's separating and reattaching all the time, manually.
But not with the Saucier because they couldn't come up with that. All right. Well, so we've established that's renowned space veterinarian McCoy.
Mhm.
And I think we're at the end. Oh my God. Space Hamlet's makeup just keeps getting better and better. Now
Yes.
he's got these like full blushed out cheeks and I love it. Look at that.
Yeah, we go back
Yeah.
one more time to the bridge and we see just the headless, like the head of Q, the bodiless
Yeah.
head of Q
Space Hamlet.
on the viewer there.
And he's just every time we see him, his makeup is like he's getting more and more makeup on.
Yeah.
It's very nice. And he's doing it well. Yeah.
So they continue on their mission now to go to Farpoint Station and solve the mystery there.
Yeah, and I bet at this point Picard regrets not hiring a space lawyer to fight against Space Hamlet / Space Thomas Cromwell / Space Cardinal Wolsey, and instead having a therapist, counselor.
Oh, yeah, so that's the episode. Amara, what were your overall thoughts of this first episode?
Okay, here we go. All right. So, conclusion. After watching my first TNG episode, I don't mind a dress with some awesome boots for the ladies, and I love how they let the guys show off their legs as well.
Yeah.
And I am super happy that there's no boobily crew members where it's just like, here's a lady uniform that happens to be low cut in the front, because that's like kind of BS.
Yeah.
I did want to say Riker, if I'm being superficial here, not great in his uniform. He actually had chest hairs peeking out of the top.
Did he really?
So it's like, and it looks like a little spider. Didn't like that much. But, I don't want to shame him for having body hair.
Yeah.
Also, Space Hamlet just seems hella cool. I know he's the primary antagonist, but he's got a better ship. And
he doesn't have a ship.
What?
He doesn't have a ship.
Where did he beat people to? Valhalla?
Spoilers.
Okay,
I'm not gonna give you more. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, I shouldn't have said that.
Speaking of the spaceship, the columns in that court scene looked like the same columns they used on that the Farpoint Station.
Oh yeah.
So I think they just double booked. They're like, we'll just
possible.
move these columns. Huh.
Yeah.
So that's cool. Good use of props and reuse if you got a small budget. Yeah. Okay. So he also has like awesome wardrobe options, Space Hamlet. So that's another reason why I think he's awesome. And a hover throne with beavers, maybe.
Battle beavers. Yeah.
And also the powers of like Batman's Mr. Freeze.
Yeah.
Which means he can probably make a bunch of chill puns.
Oh my god.
Also, the buttons on the lapel of the different people with the Starfleet obviously indicate rank.
Yeah.
Okay, got that right. And they don't have many buttons because mo buttons, mo problems. Finally, the Farpoint people are clearly being creepy because the pepper or apple, and the bolt of fabric is actually Soylent Green, which is people.
Oh, so this is your conclusion about Farpoint?
That was my first conclusion. I have just several.
Okay.
I've watched too many like horror movies inside my.
Do you want to come down on one prediction for what's going on at the mystery of Farpoint?
I do like the Soylent Green as people one, but
So how would that work though? Like, how would that having Soylent Green as people make them get a bolt of cloth or whatever?
Yeah, I know, Dave. You're really
the dots
asking
for
the
me.
hard questions. I'm gonna say it's like an omnipotent force that can fulfill your desires, but at high cost to you morally, like something like Twilight Zone-y.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, very cool. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, at least for me, for rewatching this again, first time in many, many years, I'm honestly surprised this turned into like a really famous show. Like, like the costumes are kind of hinky or whatever. But,
Hey, they're amazing and possibly from Patrick Stewart's suitcase.
But the CGI is actually quite good. And you kind of see in the story or the interplay between the characters, like what they're going to become. So that was kind of fun to see. I enjoyed it. And I'm definitely looking forward to our next episode, Encounter at Farpoint 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think LeVar Burton will read to us?
I don't want to give you any spoilers.
That's fair. Do you think Riker will pick up a book and start being nicer to LeVar Burton?
I
don't like him very much.
Riker?
Yeah, Riker. Yeah. He's like kind of hitting on the mom who's just trying to do some bolt shopping. Oh yeah, that's the other thing. So they have currency?
So that's never really cleared, right? Because like they say in the show, I mean, this is a bit of a spoiler, but not super much, that the Federation doesn't really have any money. That money was dispensed with, right? But then they just do things like charge it to Dr. Crusher, right? Or they interact with other people that use currency. And that's never really explained.
So, well, I'm just going to say in my head, that means that Dr. Crusher probably owns that bolt salesman like a good suture. Yeah, or a vaccine for space rabies.
Oh yeah, so they just do it like a service-based economy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very possible, but it's not really ever played out.
That's unfortunate.
It is, yeah. I mean, also like coming up with a whole new financial system is a bit beyond the capacity of the writer.
I mean, Rick and Morty did it.
Well, what was theirs?
I don't think we have time to go into that.
Okay, fair enough. All right.
That's like a third podcast. Well, thank you for joining us on Star Trek.
Yeah.
We hope you didn't learn the thing, but maybe thought about things in different ways.
I certainly really enjoyed hearing your impressions about this, right? And like all the things that you caught and like picked up on that I don't watching it again. So it definitely made it fresher for me. So, and we hope you all enjoyed it as well, and that you'll continue to listen to the podcast in our next episode, Encounter at Farpoint 2.
Which again could be anywhere because it's a far point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So thanks everyone for listening, and we'll talk to you later.
And you can check us out. We also run the podcast Anecdotes for Awkward Folks. So check out our website, and there's also links to this podcast and other information. Like I had to draw the Star Trek Next Generation insignia without any knowledge beforehand. And I actually was really pretty damn close because it's very similar to the one that's in J.J. Abrams.
So. Yeah,
so.
no, you did a really, really good job on that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But it doesn't include Star Trek. Like there's no secret S in the insignia. So that part's wrong. So check us out at starttrek.com. That's starttrek.com. See you next week.
Yeah. All right. Thanks,
Hopefully you
everyone.
listen next week. Have a wonderful week.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay, you try to do con then.
Shall we begin?
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 Shall we begin? I think it's getting worse.